This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Welcome to the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club for this book, Couchsurfing in Iran by Stephan Orth. You have the same edition there, I bet. I want to go and read the German one now. Let's start by a quick yay or nay. Did you like Couchsurfing in Iran, Justin?
Yay. Do you want more details?
I did say a quick yay or nay, didn't I? Yes, please. A quick why I liked it.
Look, I thought I was going to like it before I even read it, so it's a good thing I did like it. Probably because the topics were of interest. I've got many travellers, an interest in Iran because it's such a misrepresented country around the world, I guess. I think people have a lot more issues separating government from the people with Iran. And the other thing is Couchsurfing, I also have a bit of a... look, I can see its benefits, but I can see a lot of negatives. And so, yeah, so it was good to see how the author viewed Couchsurfing and how he used it, because I do think there's people who try and use it as a way to avoid spending any money. And then in some countries, that's not necessarily you're not helping the country out at all.
Yeah, it's inappropriate in some ways. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Have you ever couch surfed, Justin?
I have not.
Me neither.
I'm way too shy, and I'd be, I don't even, the author goes off with people he just meets on the street, and I probably wouldn't do that. So
no, he goes with this whole philosophy, that's his goal, is to kind of say yes to anything, basically.
Yes. So I like to meet people, but then I kind of keep them at arm's length away, just in case, because I'm not sure. And then, so my interactions are always far more limited than what the author does in the book, because he's sleeping generally on their rugs by the sounds of it in Iran. So yeah, and gets to see a lot more of the local life that way.
Yeah, but he's very brave, and I'm much too risk averse. Especially as a woman, I just wouldn't go and sleep on any old person's couch or piece of rug or whatever. I
have had people who've gone couch surfing and they get the most amazing, they get the whole room or an apartment next door or things like that, and then there's literally the whole couch. You're literally on their couch or their rug or something. So yeah.
I just think even some of the people that the author ended up meeting were a little there was no one really dodgy, because as we will discuss, Iranians are clearly always unanimously amazing people, but still there was a few weird situations, and I would feel broadly speaking across the world, I would feel uncomfortable.
I said in the eyes of the Iranian police, they're all dodgy because
that's
illegal.
yeah.
Legal it is. So.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's another risk I probably wouldn't be prepared to take, because you could end up.
You'd read it's illegal, and then you probably wouldn't do it. Whereas other countries, the same with Airbnb. You read about how a city's cracked down on Airbnb. You're less likely to book Airbnb.
Very interesting. Okay, now let's delve a bit deeper into what we learned about couch surfing in Iran in particular, but perhaps couch surfing in general. So, Justin, you had your first tag. Actually, so just for viewers, we go through and as we read, we tag interesting things. Now, this book has more tags than nearly any book I've read, because there were so many cool things. And so many of ours were exactly the same, Justin. So it was interesting. There were some real highlights of intriguing moments or funny things or interesting things. So the first one was describing a bit about couch surfing, and he talked about the worst couch surfers he'd come across.
Oh, yeah. And I'm just surprised at the person who stole the toilet paper. And only one couch surfer actually stole the toilet paper, because, like I said, the reputation of many couch surfers is they're more frugal with their travelling. So if they can find a free way of doing it, they'd steal the toilet paper, I imagine, and probably wouldn't care too much, because they go, I'll just buy another one or bring another one out. So But I think I'm trying to remember who the worst one was, because the worst one
I've just looked it up. I'll read it out. So it was at a meeting, like he went to quite a few like couch surfing meetings kind of thing while he was in Iran. And so one of this was the redhead girl asks me about my worst experience. I tell her about a visitor from Frankfurt who wanted to talk the whole night about the intricacies of high-end stereo systems, although I had to get up the next morning at 8 and had an important exam at the university. And in addition to that, he behaved as if he were in a hotel with 24-hour butler service. Yeah. And she says, "That was your worst experience?" "Yes, and the second worst was the guest who stole my toilet paper." So all within the bounds of reason. So yes, if that's the worst, it's not actually terrible. Although, I know that those guests are like who want to talk about a very boring topic for a very long time. Not cool, but I think it's on the whole, not a terrible thing to have happen. Perhaps couch surfing is much safer than we think.
And I know people who've stolen toilet paper as well because they forgot to bring some, and then you turn up in a country and realise, it's not available sort of in the public toilets, and you go, I haven't got any, so they go to a hotel, and the first thing they do is, they'll either take the whole roll or look for the, like sometimes in a hotel there's a half roll and the full one, so they take the half one so it doesn't look as bad.
Yeah. Like there's a reason for it. I can kind of get with that. Now, while we're on the toilet subject, the another part about the couch surfing was descriptions of bathroom issues, and I think that all travellers can relate to having issues in foreign bathrooms. Yeah.
I can't think of an actual story, but the number of times I've been in places where it just doesn't drain, the water doesn't drain. I know in the last place I was overseas in Ethiopia, the bathrooms would often, the shower was kind of in with the bathroom and the toilet and the vanity and everything, and so the water, often they didn't have shower, so the water would get everywhere. But
it's designed like that, hey? That happens to me in Copenhagen.
Yeah, and I remember a hotel in Berlin, which was part backpackers, part super cheap hotel, and the actual showers that looked like they were a module, they just kind of stuck into the corner of the room, and you could do, shave, go into the toilet and shower and do everything all at once without actually, because you couldn't move anyway. And so, but the description he has, I assume this is probably quite a bigger bathroom where, he says it, and I get this because I never want to leave a mess behind either. And you don't want to be that guy who, especially in this day and age of ratings, rating your guests and stuff. But when you, I'll
read it out. It's great.
A clumsy foreigner on all fours with a towel wrapped around his waist, wearing the right flip-flop, balancing the naked left foot on the narrow doorstep, trying to guide the water to the drain with the left flip-flop.
It's a gorgeous image, isn't it?
I'm imagining it's like a game of Twister, but trying not to get wet, but also trying to get the water out the drain. And
it's slippery too. Like there's a lot of degree of difficulty in this scenario. So it's hard. And
even just the fact that he's in someone's home and he's just got a towel wrapped around his waist in such a modest country like Iran, to think that one of or a daughter that might live in that house could come and see him and see something that, even though, by Western standards, a towel would be perfectly okay. Probably, maybe not in Iran.
Possibly not. No, especially not, yes, if the women of the house happen to come across him. Yeah. So, yes. I think foreign bathroom problems, I've had my fair share. When I was traveling in Russia and we stayed in lots of homestays there was like very regularly an issue, like you just couldn't get the hot water, or I remember there was you'd get a lot of electric shocks, which was disturbing and things like that. So bathrooms can be tricky.
They can, but you just kind of have to roll with it, I think. You just got to work out what the locals do and just
do your best to do that. Now we both made a note about this, the friendliness of hosts. So if you're couch surfing or something similar, and people are more like they've really chosen to have you there compared to like staff at a hotel who are being paid to be nice to you, essentially.
That's right. Yeah. And I think it's probably why people like, I personally prefer like generally the smaller places, even if it's a hotel. If it's only got like 10 rooms, then usually the owner's running, the one person that you're talking to all the time. So that's usually okay. And bed and breakfasts and Airbnbs where the host is just renting out a room, I've always found it's a far better experience. The people are so much nicer. They don't all want to like talk to you and find out about how many cats you've got and what their names are and all that kind of stuff. But it'll just be a nicer experience. Whereas the hotel staff might, oh, hello, sir, how was your day today? And they don't want you to tell them how your day was. They're just doing it because they're told.
They're just being polite. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't get those in-depth conversations. I just think of one of my Airbnb hosts in Denmark, in Western Denmark, where we had, very in-depth conversations to the point where poor Ruben, my son, was sitting there rolling his eyes, like, oh, come on, stop having these long discussions. You don't get that also in a hotel, they're being paid to work. So it's a bit, it's they kind of have to do the work thing, the professional part. So
I do remember, ironically, I think I was in Perth for a month for work, and because I was in the same hotel for 1 month, the staff did actually get to know me and got a bit friendly. And so, like,
that's
when I went down for dinner, they'd say, "Oh, I think you've had everything on the menu. Would you like the chef to make you something completely different, not on the menu?" And I've gone, "Sure." And they go in and have a chat to the chef and come out, give me a couple other options that weren't on the menu, and they'd make it. So
that's
I think
nice. Go Perth.
In the right situations it can, but yeah, I think
it's less likely, isn't it? Yeah. And now the last bit before we move on about the couch surfing topic, and I found this really interesting and absolutely it sounds sensible too. I'd never really thought about it, but he was discussing couch surfing there with someone else in Iran, and they described how one of the drawbacks of couch surfing is that the community is pretty homogenous. So the people who are involved in couch surfing, they're generally pretty well educated. They speak English because they're on the couch surfing website. They're pretty online savvy. So you get a kind of a particular narrow strip of society, because I think the guy he was speaking to loved to hitchhike, and he got to meet a whole variety of people that way, which, makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, you're probably always going to have that thing. But having said that, I think I've had completely different experiences, say, with Airbnbs when I've booked rooms, because that's a bit broader. And certainly like homestays in Cuba, no one spoke English. And
definitely.
Peru,
yeah, that would be cool.
I stayed in an apartment in Peru with a woman and her son, and they spoke no English. So whereas the couch surfing I think because it's more community based, and it's perhaps that's why it's sprung up that way. And
I think so.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I haven't not done couch surfing, but it does feel like you're getting that, and even probably the kind of work that they're all doing. They all seem to be quite professional, middle class workers in all of these. So as well,
it attracts that kind of people who are very interested in other cultures, and people like us. Really, it's just that we don't want to do couch surfing, but
they had an education as well.
Fairly open-minded and broad. Anyone who's listening, comment and tell us: would you or have you couch surfed, and would you or wouldn't you couch surf? Why or why not? So I asked my son about this, and he's like, very literal. Well, I don't have a surfboard. I'm like, it's not that kind of surfing. But he's 11 and he likes to make bad jokes and roll his eyes. So, what more can I ask? Okay, now our next topic is about how the wonder of Iranians. So I actually did a whole episode about how fabulous Iran is to visit, because people kept telling, and I don't often talk about destinations, but people kept telling me these stories, and they were all about how their experiences there were incredible. And certainly any of the Iranians I've met, I used to work with a couple of Iranian brothers, and they were the best. They were just such lovely people. So I am all for this stereotype that Iranians are friendly. And we found out in the book, well, Stephan Orth found out couch surfing there, that that's pretty true. I like in the very opening, it was like an hour after he'd arrived, and he'd had, various sort of stereotypes, because Iran sounds like it's always in the headlines about terrible things and stuff. So kind of have that kind of thing. But he said everyone was so incredibly helpful and didn't scam him that they might in other situations in other countries. And he said, I have to readjust my prejudice compass after just 1 hour in Iran. I like that, his prejudice compass. So, I think, I thought that was a good way. You've got a couple of other interesting examples of meeting.
In the book, I think, what was the first one because I do like how he did the little texts, and he had the name and the city they were in, which is probably how he stored them in the phone. So there was a text from Masoud Kish, and he said, "Oh, the in-laws are over. I might have to kick them out." When he was asking, "Is there a room still available?" And I just thought that's the sort of thing that someone in Australia would say. I've got the in-laws, so I'll have to kick them out, or that'll give me an excuse to.
That's what I wondered, isn't it? Excuse, yeah.
Yeah, so that to me was something an Australian would do. Yet he was an Iranian also doing the same thing. So it may be common across all cultures. Who knows?
I don't know, but it sounded friendly. I liked it.
Yeah, friendly. Yeah, it was just and just lots of those even the numerous tweets he was getting from those Iranian girls, and he couldn't work it out for a while, and he was just being friendly, and turns out I think they were 14.
They were high school girls, weren't they? Yeah.
And there were two of them, and wanting to get married.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't read it, it is it's an interestingly written book because main text is interspersed with lots of little text messages or tweets and stuff that just break it up. And oh no, there's one, I'll get to it later, but there's a series of them that I really liked. I really liked the part where he was talking about how friendly Iranians are, and this is a quote that I like. He said, "Fear of the lack of human contact in Iran is like a round-the-world yachtsman being worried about getting a suntan." Like, you will have human contact in Iran. People will come and they will talk to you and they will keep you for a very, very long time. In fact, let me just jump ahead because there's one of my favorite bits was when they were hitchhiking. Oh, yeah, that's right. So they were trying to hitchhike when he had his other friend along with him. But they managed to get only 2.5 miles in 3 hours because people kept inviting them in for meals and, "Oh, you have to meet my so-and-so and come and have a meal here." And they were trying to say, "No, we're trying to hitchhike. We're trying to get to there." "Oh, don't do that. They'll be uncomfortable. Or come on, I'll book you on the train." I'm like, "No, we're trying to hitchhike." So they gave up after they said it would have been much quicker to walk that 2.5 miles. And then they gave up on hitchhiking because people are too friendly. It just didn't work. I thought that was classic. What else did you find there with there's a couple of interesting people there.
But I also think that I've probably forgot to bookmark it, but the one about he missed all the attractions on the island as well.
I've got that one. Yes. I wrote that on Kish. And I wrote down the quote, actually. He said, "I've missed most of the attractions on the island, but the hours spent with Masood and his wonderful family were better than any dolphin park."
Yes, and of course I think Kish is like where all the Iranians go for holiday, and so they have things like a dolphin park, and which, to be honest, if you're a Western tourist, you probably go just out of curiosity to see what.
No, I'm not going there. I bet they don't keep them nicely.
No, that would be my concern.
But it did sound like that holiday island kind of place. But I think
I was going to say Gold Coast for Iranians, but probably that's only applicable to Australians who know what the Gold Coast is.
True. But I know what you mean. So
Florida or Disneyland for Americans.
Ibiza.
Ibiza for Europeans, yeah. But you have to forgive them for this one, but Iranians didn't seem to know much about Germans, although they did seem to feel very friendly towards, anyone Alaman, because...
why was that? Germany had done something good.
It was something the Germans didn't do, whereas other countries did do, but...
Yes, which benefited Iran somehow, or... Yeah, I can't quite remember the real...
Taxi, and he told him, "Oh, I'm from Germany." And the first thing he goes is, "Hail Hitler," which is completely...
Really? Not appropriate, but...
But you kind of, as a traveller, you forgive them. I get all the time, "Oh, where are you from?" "Australia." 99% of the time, "Kangaroo," is the answer I get. So that's okay. That's somewhat more appropriate.
But still irrelevant to our daily lives, basically. So
yes. So, So anyway, I don't know. But again, the taxi drivers are probably people that are perhaps lesser educated than the ones he was meeting in the Couchsurfing. So their knowledge of Germany wouldn't be as good as the Couchsurfing hosts. So
no, exactly. Well, I mean, got to be fair. What did we learn about Iran in school? Nothing really. So,
and their news is obviously tailored to what the leaders want them to see as well. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now we've got a couple of notes about illegalities, I suppose.
Yes,
because a lot of things are against the rules in Iran.
And
couchsurfing for one.
Couchsurfing for one. And this one doesn't surprise, the one about the number of people who did their own home brews, for example, brewed their own wine or their own vodka or their own beer. And I think there was one guy who brewed do his own homebrew, and he said he kind of just said, as very casual, I have to be careful, otherwise I'm going to get 80 lashes for this. And yet they still did it. And it doesn't surprise me, because even though any good Muslim will tell you it's forbidden, I see people I've been to a few Middle Eastern countries, and there's bars in some of them, and they're full of local people who are drinking alcohol. I think Bahrain's known for where the Saudis go. So while on one hand it's forbidden by their religion, on the other hand, it's not as strict as, say, we might perceive it to be. Like,
yeah, I think a lot goes on behind closed doors that just
behind closed doors. Yeah,
people turn a blind eye to it or whatever. Yeah,
the laws might be a little bit stricter and the punishments might be a little bit stricter, but I would say in terms of other religions that people are always doing things probably maybe a little bit more in the open that might be forbidden by their religion, whereas Islam, or at least in Iran, it seems to be tucked away undercover, and they probably know what's going on, but as long as it's out of sight, you don't get caught.
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, I'd be very worried about drinking beer or anything in Iran.
I try not to do anything illegal anywhere, to be honest, because especially in a foreign country, you don't want to get caught. I noticed that we've got a few extra people have just joined online, and because we're streaming through The Unusual Place, I'm just going to put up a reminder that what we're doing is the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club, and we are chatting about Couchsurfing in Iran by Stephan Orth, and I highly recommend it. We probably need to move on to travel. Oh no, there's one more bit I just want to put before we move on to travel and travellers. Actually, there's two bits. Can you mention about the drug problem? Not problem.
Oh yes. Because, and this follows on from what I was just saying, like the Quran explicitly says you're not allowed to drink alcohol, and then the locals say, but it's a bit more what's the word? A bit more vague around hash, cocaine, or whatever it's heroin,
opium.
So opium. So it seemed to be, and then there was a Japanese kidnapped, and he did hashish for the 30 days he was kidnapped. So it wasn't not so bad. So
not so unhappy about being kidnapped.
Yeah. So this whole, on one hand, you're like going, okay, no alcohol, but the Koreans not so strict on drugs, so we'll just do drugs.
It probably couldn't have been so specific back then, but I love their rough interpretations of it. Now, just before we move on, I really liked in towards the end that the author kind of described Iran very nicely. Well, summed it up, I thought, his thoughts, and it seems plausible. So he said, "For me, it is a country that enchants and enrages me at the same time." And just to paraphrase what he said there's magical places, the countryside's magnificent, the people are so warm, but then the state religion is imposed with no free choice. There's very few opportunities for youth. Riches from oil aren't shared. So it's a real balance of good and bad in his summary of it, which, from what he saw, seems to be a fair summary.
Yeah. And, you could probably apply that to a lot of countries around the world as well, to some degree. Perhaps the opportunities are greater in places like Europe and Australia and North America. I think perhaps the opportunities are there, whereas in Iran they're not there, and their sense of the law as it's applied is a lot stricter around things that we would just consider to be perfectly fine. Yeah. So, but it seems to be a fairly good summary.
Actually, and while we're talking about that, it's probably a good time to skip down to that the part where he says there are no bad places if the reason you're traveling is to meet people.
Yeah.
So, because there's this question of, should you visit countries where, where you really disagree with the government or the regime, or, that kind of thing where, people often, like, for example, if we would visit North Korea or something, but that there are no bad places if the reason you're traveling is to meet people. Like, I kind of get that, that's the benefit, and then people who can then learn about other parts of the world from you, and you learn more about the truth of their country. But, I don't know. What do you think? It's tricky, though. I think this is where people get... So if we compare it to, say, somewhere like North Korea, where you have to go on a tour with people, and then all your interactions are controlled by your tour guide. Mm. And so in that sense, you're not able to separate the people
from the government that you might disagree with.
Yeah.
Whereas it does appear to be, from the number of people who've gone to Iran that I've spoken to, it does appear that you can separate that. And tourists are given, they want tourists to come and see their country.
Yes, there's not so many restrictions, not like North Korea.
Yeah. So I think you can separate the government from the people, and so you can support the local people. And I think the government does want tourists to come as well. So I guess they probably feel that they've got an unfair, image
like
around the world, reputation.
Yeah.
So, but I can understand if someone said, "I'm not going to go there on whatever principles they've got," and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
but
I would definitely go, just for the record.
Yeah, but it's good just to know that the people there aren't. They're not. Well, they are what I've heard about and what I expect, but I think some people would have stereotypes thinking they're all rather very strict with everything. And as it turns out, despite having a rather strict religion and that, they tweak it to suit their lives and they get on with life and do take some risks.
Yeah.
But also very friendly. So, yeah.
Exactly. That's that universal, the universal theme that I always hear.
Everyone says, the people are so friendly. And,
yeah. Like the episode I did on it, like everyone, without exception, every guest said that it was the single friendliest country they had ever visited. And they, all very well-traveled people, and they were just so adamant about how wonderful the people there were. Like, so it must be good. Makes me want to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's pick out a couple of highlights of this of our final section. The second part, page 75. Do you want to read out that quote?
But everyone who travels extensively knows you make a fool of yourself 3 to 10 times more often when you're away from home. I don't know where he's got the official measurement of 3 to 10 times from, but
I agree.
I do agree, and I think I've said this to many people. I am far more outgoing in foreign countries, so less introvert, more extrovert. I do probably do more stupid things and probably take a slight bit more risk on things rather than at home. And so I can't disagree with it. I mean, I think I think like I made a comment in here about all the plastic stools in Hanoi are not made for people like me, because I lost track of how many times you try and sit on a little corner of the street and end up in the gutter or something like that to drink your fresh made beer. And
they're made for very small Vietnamese people.
Anybody who knows me, get a video camera ready for when I get on the boat, because they all think I'm going to fall in. So it's...
That's hilarious. I remember, like, especially when I was in Japan, and especially in the early months, and I didn't speak much of the language, and there was so many like cultural differences, and I just wouldn't know what to do. Like, I wouldn't know when to take my shoes off. I wouldn't know where to put my shoes, and like I was just I was just a child, ready for my hosts around me to just explain to me what to do. Because there was no other way, and like I'm sure I looked like a complete fool many, many times. But it's also, I completely agree. Like you're more open to risking acting like a fool when you're abroad, because A, often you don't know many people, so it sort of doesn't matter so much, and B, like you just know you don't know what to do sometimes, and so you just try and figure it out. And that barrier, the embarrassment barrier seems to be less, I think, when you're a foreigner in some place where you really don't know what's going on. Now I do want to talk about how when Stephan was traveling in Iran, he spent, a significant part of the trip traveling with his half Iranian friend and Layla.
I'd say Layla, but
I don't know, Layla or Layla. And they pretended to be married.
This is completely foreign to me, because I've done a lot of traveling with a couple of friends who are female. And anytime we've been in a country where it was remotely Muslim, like in Jordan, for example, I think in Jordan's the one that springs to mind. We went with the we're cousins line, not the married line.
Right. So
because we wanted separate beds for a start. So as soon as you say you're married, and they try and give you a bed, which we've had a couple of times,
That's not the preference.
I think in Georgia as well. Like, even though they also had some rules, and they're like a I don't know, Georgian Orthodox, or they've got some. I'm not sure what the official religion is in Georgia, but they've got a very conservative people as well. And so there's a few countries like that, and it was just like it was far easier to just say Ethiopia. That's the other one.
Yeah,
Ethiopia.
right.
Like, we literally were saying we were not brother and sister, but like cousins or family. So we were kind of related, but it didn't come up very often. And most of the time it did come up was other men wanting to hit on to my friend. So to make sure I wasn't
I've got my cousin here. He's looking out for me, kind of thing. Yeah.
But fortunately, my friend is a fairly well-travelled person as well, and she's able to handle that kind of stuff. But we travel together because it's comfortable as well, like to have someone there for both of us. But never ever have we ever thought, let's just pretend to be married. It just seems to be so much more difficult to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. As proven by some of the incidents in Couchsurfing in Iran.
So
I know that's very true. What I actually especially liked is that that Stephan was dropping hints through like the first half of the book. It was like little text messages and stuff. So I actually thought he did have a girlfriend who was about to arrive, and then there was a surprise reveal that she wasn't. She was just going to pretend, but they pretended.
Well, even then I thought it was a girlfriend, and they were just going to pretend to be married. So
yeah. I thought that was very nicely done. Bit of suspense.
And then he seemed to make a lot of jokes, and she seemed to not necessarily appreciate them all or go with them all. So
yes, true. Yes. Oh dear. Now we must just finish up, because we were chatting about this before we started recording, with a lovely language problem. So
you can do the German pronunciation, because
I will. I promise. I was just going to find the bit. So yes, he was talking to Fun Man. That's right.
Fun Man, yes. Fun Man. He was my favourite Iranian. Just because I think he was like 53 or something.
Yeah. He wasn't. He was much older than Stephan, and yeah. And Stephan just wanted to go to sleep. He's like, "Oh, here's your stereo to hook up to your phone if you want to listen to it." And the dog's howling, and it's like, "Thanks, Fun Man." That was a lot of fun. And Fun Man was trying to get him to say is it a town? I'm not sure, but Berum. But I can't say it because you have to roll your R in the middle of Berim or Berim.
Yes.
I can't roll R's. Can you?
A fluent Spanish speaker would be.
I can't do it. Brr. And he's like, not like that. You have to roll the R. I can't. It's simple. Brr. I can't do it. We don't have that kind of R in German, not where I come from. Nonsense. Everyone can do it. And then Stephan wins this by saying, okay, say Eichhörnchen, which is the word for squirrel in German. Even squirrel in English is a hard word to say, but Eichhörnchen. Yeah. And then, of course, this poor Iranian fun man, is trying to say Eichhörnchen. He really can't. And so Stephan's like, see? So then they agreed that there are just some parts of languages that you may not ever be able to pronounce properly.
No, and I'm quite happy for people to know I'm not fluent, because it usually helps.
Yes, you don't want to appear too fluent. That's
otherwise they just start talking to you and you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's so true. If your accent is too good on the few words you know, then that can be quite a problem. But we were discussing that here in Australia, we have a few Aussie things that are hard to say, mostly place names.
Yes. Woolloomooloo is a good one. Yeah.
Woolloomooloo is great. Coonabarabran, I always like.
Coonabarabran, yeah. Anything with lots of groups of vowels.
Yeah, Woolloomooloo is awesome because there's so many O's. We've got a few.
Even Canberra is a hard one because everyone wants to pronounce the Canberra is what people want to say, but nobody here says it. The vowel, the E vowel is shortened so much. It literally sounds like can and bra.
Yeah, it's like two syllables. Yeah, it's Canberra. Syllables. That's so.
It probably was maybe 3. I think my grandfather said it with 3, but
yeah, these days you would never hear it with 3. Yeah. It's like Melbourne that you can tell a foreigner because they call it Melbourne. Or is that what they say? Melbourne.
Brisbane's another one.
Yeah. People get Perth right, so that's something. Oh dear. Well, anyway, I think hopefully you can tell we thoroughly enjoyed Couchsurfing in Iran. And if you haven't read it, highly recommend it because it was a lot of fun as well, wasn't it?
It was. It was, and it definitely gives you that highlight of what Iran is actually like without it being sugar-coated in any way, I don't think. And,
Yeah. It seemed like a pretty realistic and
yeah. And I think you're probably in the same boat. You probably also now want to read his other books. So
yes, I have. I was just saying beforehand, this jumped into my hand at the library the other day, Couchsurfing in China. So that's going to be one of my next ones. And what is he got? Couchsurfing in Russia?
And I think, as I mentioned, Saudi Arabia, but it's only for people who can speak German. So
coming soon in English, no doubt, because they've translated the rest of them. So next book for the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club is All the Way to the Tigers by Mary Morris. The exciting news is that Mary Morris is going to join us to discuss All the Way to the Tigers. So it'll be around late July sometime. We're just finalising a date. We also have to get a good time zone because she's in North America, so we'll figure that out. But I read this a couple of months ago because it, like so many books, jumped out at me at the library, and fabulous. So I'm really looking forward to it.
On the front, which is usually a good sign.
Sorry, what's on the front?
Tiger print on the front, so it's usually a good sign.
Yes, that's true. It's very, very good. I just really liked it. So anyway, I'm not going to say anything about it. Just read it, everybody. I loved it. It might be one of my favourites. It might be my favourite for the year. Let's say that. Other than that, that's it, I think. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Amanda.
This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.